Welcome back. This is going to be another engine refresh video, guys. We are moving forward. One thing you're going to notice maybe in this video, I know I notice it when I watch other people, a lot of these clips are filmed over multiple days. I've been out here on evenings and weekends, whenever I get a little spare time, trying to make up time. So I'm squeezing in every minute I can, trying to get it done. And well, we're back out here again today, this morning, finishing up the coffee. Get back to work on round 2, phase 2. I don't know what to call it. There's a lot of stuff in this video, like I said, from multiple filming episodes where I've been trying to play catch up. But I'm bringing you all along for everything, so don't mind the wardrobe changes, and let's see what we can get done today. Used motor parts. This is probably what you're looking at if you're having a used set of pistons that you're trying to reuse. There's your wrist pin and your piston. That's what they're looking like when they come out of the motor. These have actually been through the ultrasonic, so they got a little different hue to them. They're a little cleaned up. But what we want to do is make them look more like this right here. Let me show you what I did to get them looking like that. Before we get down to cleaning them, one thing you're going to notice too is sometimes those wrist pins, boy, they lived in that motor for a little bit and they don't want to go back together. And part of the cleaning process that I'm going to show you gets them back to where they do this, like when they were fresh out of the box. That's nice. You need that wrist pin polished up. You don't want them too loose, but you definitely want it where you can push it in and out by hand. Also, a nice little thing I noticed on these is the previous installer stamped what number cylinder they went to. Fortunately for me, I had them in order, but the cylinders and the pistons are marked for what cylinder in the motor they were on. So that's nice. If you're ever taking a motor apart, definitely mark your stuff. Put it back where it belongs. One process I've mentioned before is that I like to use this 2-paddle brake hone and clean up the wrist pin hole just a little bit. Guys, we're not trying to take away material, we're trying to take away imperfections. But what you want to do is just, I'm not going to tell you what you want to do. What I do is I put that in there with a little bit of lubricant. Just make sure that that hole doesn't have any imperfections in it. Then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Once your pin's cleaned up, this will hopefully make it slip in there nice and smooth. Again, I'm not trying to take away material. This hone is not set to be putting a lot of pressure on it. I'm just taking out any imperfections. This is a used piston. It's been running a motor. It's been under extreme conditions, I'm sure. So we're just cleaning up any imperfections that might exist. Once your pin's cleaned up and you go to slide it back in, you'll find out whether it slides in or not. And if it doesn't, maybe you're going to go in here again. It's all up to you, because I'm not telling you what to do, I'm telling you what I'm doing. But cleaned it up. I can even see spots where there are little nicks in there. But we're going to clean up the pin, lube it up, and see how it fits in there. But that's part of the process. Let's go to the next part of the process. Feel free to comment below on my mess. Anyway, back here at the bench with the bench grinder. Got a soft wire wheel on here. We're going to take this piston and clean up all this buildup off of here as best as we can. Clean up the ring channels. Like I said, it was through an ultrasonic, but we're going to go ahead and wire brush it down. We'll end up also seeing the cylinder piston number that's stamped in here somewhere below this carbon deposit. Right there, number 1. That's what we're working on. You'll see it a lot better. Anyway, let's see if we can get this cleaned up a little bit. Also, if you want to donate me a much better bench grinder, feel free to. This one probably doesn't have as many horsepower as it needs. There's number one. Okay, well there it is. Probably about as clean as I'm gonna do it. Got everything cleaned up around the sides here. All the grooves for the rings are cleaned out. Like I said, we got our number one mark on there. Now we're going to clean up the piston, the wrist pin here, and see if we can get it to slip through there nice and easy. So the assembly will go nice and smoothly. And then once it's rotating at high RPM, we're not going to have any drag or any heat. It's going to cause this to seize up on us. So let's get after that pin. For my next trick, we're going to use this drill press right here. What I've done is I've put the wrist pin with a bolt through it and a couple of washers. And this is a 1/2-inch bolt. Someone might tell me I should have used metric, but I did use 19s to tighten it down, if that helps. Anyway, tighten it down with a couple of washers. I'm going to chuck this into the drill press, and then I've got some emery cloth and some red Scotch-Brite, and we're going to see if we can polish this up. Again, our objective is not to take away material, it's to take away blemishes in this, like these rings right here, right where it sat outside the connecting rod. You know, let's clean it up, see if it'll slip in there a little bit better. Okay, we've got it all chucked up. I'm going to start out with some emery cloth. And a little red Scotch-Brite. That looks a lot better. Guys, I'm basically a machinist. Let's go see if it fits any better. So all joking aside, guys, chucking your wrist pin up in an old bench press and wrapping emery cloth around it, maybe not the safest thing. So what I'm telling you is, that's how I did it. I'm not telling you how to do a thing. It's just how I did it. I wanted to show you. Anyway, wrist pin, polished. You can see those lines are gone. Piston, put that hone through there. Let's maybe put just a dab of something on here. Okay, look at that. Pass through. You can hear it. It's not like it's falling through there. You don't want play in this, guys. You're going to get slapping that pin. Do not take away material. Just clean up the material that's there. Anyway, that's what we were aiming for, guys. Oh, there. That's what we were aiming for. Okay. Why? There it goes. Now we'll go back. Okay. I'm happy with that. And this happens to be the 4th one. I did the other 3 off camera already. That does mean that I successfully did 3 of those without wrapping my arm around that bench press. But, again, don't do what I say. Don't listen to me. It's just how I did it. Anyway, I'm happy with that. Let's move on. The first thing I'm getting after today is cleaning on the heads a little bit more. Number 1 and 2 has been in the ultrasonic. And, guys, ultrasonic does not bring it out perfectly clean. It just breaks down stuff, especially in places you can't get to. But 1 and 2 has already been through there, and I'm back at it with a wire brush, or a winder, blah, blah, blah. With a cup brush, a soft cup brush, to clean up some of the residual stuff that's left from the parts washer, the ultrasonic. Man, I'm really messing this up. I wish I had a parts washer. You have a parts washer, a nice hot bath, it will clean all this stuff off. I do not have that. So I'm working with an ultrasonic, and some cup brushes. Anyway, back after this one, cleaning it up. Guys, it's really important to clean as much of this stuff off here as you can. These are air-cooled motors, and if they have all this gummed up, dirty grease on here, they're not going to cool as efficiently. So get them cleaned up as best as you can. This is number 3 and 4. Hadn't been through the ultrasonic yet, but I've been cleaning out the combustion chamber. You can see back here it hadn't been through the ultrasonic yet. So it's going in next. I'm just getting it prepped. What I wanted to stop and show you is as I was cleaning down here around the exhaust ports on these Type 4 heads, they're downward facing. But I noticed that the copper exhaust gaskets were still in there. Makes sense. I didn't remove them. For those of you that don't know about Type 4s, this is your exhaust gasket. There's 2 different variations of it. This is the one that goes in my head. It's a copper oval. What I wanted to show you is what came out. Wow. You think there might have been exhaust leaks on this motor? My goodness. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Blown out like this. So this thing had some exhaust leaks, it appears, and that exhaust is darn hot to be melting through this. That might have been part of the problem with these things dropping seats, getting the reputation for that back in the day. Look how hot that was, guys. But I guess also all it has to have is a little bit of leak, and then you get that hot spot, and then it'll blow it out eventually. But I wanted to show you those exhaust gaskets. That's what it should be. This is what I pulled out. Got the number 1 and 2 head all cleaned up, and the valves and springs and everything back in. I didn't video it. It's a reverse of how you took them out. Use the same spring compressor. Put those valves in. Make sure they go back where they came from. Put that stuff back in. The little keepers go in there. Maybe on 3 and 4 I'll do a little video quick to show you. But anyway, number 1 right here. Cylinder, piston. They're all cleaned up, ready to go. It's time to finally get around to rings. I looked at a thread on the Samba that was talking about ring orientation. And somebody had a really good post on there, a great comment. It said, the one thing we know for sure about ring orientation is whatever way you're doing it is wrong. And that's kind of the way the Samba goes sometimes. But that to say, there is a lot of views, opinions on how rings should go in. I'm using Grant rings, and if you look at their directions, Grant makes rings for all sorts of engines. This isn't Volkswagen specific, and their directions are not at all helpful for how they should go into a Volkswagen. When I was doing my motor, my other Type 4 motor back in, I don't know, December or something, I was talking with Gary at VW Jawbreaker. Talk about a guy who knows his way around a motor. That's the source I went to. I watched his videos, and I was trying to figure out ring orientation, and he did a real great job of explaining it. But I messaged him to confirm it. And he was nice enough to let me know I was on the right track. What I'm going to do is put these rings on. Let me show you a little diagram right now. This is a diagram that came off the Samba. It explains, it was kind of a consensus that this was a good way to put rings on with the gaps. That being said, that picture shows ring gaps sitting at the pinholes. I have been taught forever that that's not a good idea. So the consensus in that thread in particular said your top and middle ring, one of them should be lined up with this pin, the other one 180 degrees opposite over here. What I do know is you want to get as close to 180 apart as possible. I still prefer to go above the pinholes. So that picture showed them in line with the pinholes. It's not what I'm going to do, but I feel like that's a good explanation, a good reference. You want one here, you want one here, and then this oil ring back here, that's a 3-piece ring in a lot of cases. Let me bring you in a little bit closer, and we'll look at these rings and how they get installed into the piston. All right, here's our rings laid out, guys. This is how I've used different brands besides Grant. Like I said, these are Grant rings, but they all kind of come like this, divided into 1, 2, and 3. And they have a picture showing you 1 is that top groove, 2 is the middle groove, 3 is the bottom groove. That's what I'm calling bottom. This is the piston top, Down by the wrist pin, that's the bottom. Anyway, I have 3 of these pistons already ringed. This is the last one, number 1 right here. So what we're going to do is go over this as best as I can. It's not a complicated thing, but if you've never done it before, thorough directions make you feel a lot more confident about it. So let's see if we can get these slid on there. Number 3 is what we're going to start with. And number 3 is a 3-piece ring in this situation. You have this guy right here, split. It's got 2 colors on it, red and green. Those are there simply so that when you put it in, you make sure you can see red and green, okay? When you see red and green, you know that that ring is set in there properly. If it was set like that and you only saw one color, then that would be a problem. Red and green butt into each other. And then you have 2 more very thin rings. They're split also. Not quite as flexible though. One is going to sit on this side of the ring. One is going to sit on this side of the ring. Making a sandwich there. Okay? You do not want any of these gaps on this ring to line up. Now, when you're putting it on here, you don't necessarily have to orient your rings right now as you're putting them in there. You can. This one specifically is a little harder to move around, being 3-piece once it's in there. So setting it up might be wise, but the other 2, they move real easily. The objective is going to be just getting it on there. Right now we're talking about this ring though, so let's concentrate on that. Real quick, before we get started installing those rings, I got my paint pen out and I put a couple arrows on here. This arrow corresponds with this arrow right here. That arrow is important when it comes to ring orientation. This arrow points towards the flywheel. Okay? So I marked it. And then I made this arrow going up because in orientation, when it's on this motor, number 1 right here, that's the top. That's 12 o'clock. And then the other arrow is pointing back towards the flywheel. These 2 directions are important when you're setting up rings. So I went ahead and marked that on there. Here we go, guys. This is your oiler. This is the piece you put in first. And we're going to have it at the 12 o'clock position. So you want that red and green to meet up right there. Meet up at high noon. It's like a shootout. You have 2 more rings to go along with this. These do not have a top or bottom. When we get onto the other 2 rings, you'll notice that they're marked, sometimes marked. You have to be able to identify what's the top and what's the bottom. It's important how they go in, but these don't. But again, we want them to not be lined up with where this ring meets. Okay? You can't line up this gap with the red and green. What those directions I showed earlier, you're going to split the difference basically between high noon and 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock here, because you don't want it lining up with any rings. So we're going to start that one in right there. Like I said, on the other 2 rings, they're really kind of mobile once you put them in. These, not so much. So I like to start them with the desired gap in place. Didn't quite get it where I want it. That's okay. They are movable. You just don't want it to be a lot of movement that you have to do. You're going to have to work hard. Okay. So if you can see it, that one's in. Here's our gap. There's red and green visible. What we're going to do is start this other one right here. So we'll get one end. You got to make sure it fits down in beside that oiler ring. There we go. Then you work it around. Just be careful. Don't manhandle it. It'll work with you if you work with it, you know. And again, I wound up a little bit closer to the red and green than I want to. But you can move it around. Moving on. The middle ring is number 2. Picture shows it. Number means it. Middle child there. Here we go, guys. Let's focus in on this. You see that? Top. Thank goodness. We don't have to think. It says it right there. That's facing up. You might want to invest in a pair of these. You can walk these on, just like I did those, but they are substantially thicker. These specifically are pliers made for this. You still don't want to go crazy. But you put them in there and you can spread it a bit. Make sure it says top when it's facing you. Slide on down. Okay, we're in there. You can see that ring has a fair amount of play. That's because when it goes in the cylinder, it gets compressed, and that's what makes the seal. But like I said, this one's easy to move. I'm not worried about the orientation of it right now. I'm going to worry about that in a minute. Finally, number 1, our top ring. Again, if you look and see, it says top on it. They're looking out for us. The key is, guys, in case I didn't mention it, when you're doing this orientation on your rings, you don't want any of the gaps to be below the pin. This is a flat motor. Below the pin is where the oil sits. Unless you want a smoky motor, you don't want oil getting through those ring gaps. So keep them all above the pin. Okay? We're on there. This is 12 o'clock. Remember, my oiler ring, the farthest back one, its gap is here. So on the middle ring, I'm going to match that gap, but I'm going to take it down a little bit lower, closer to that pin. But like I said, I don't like lining up with the pin. So the top ring is going to go right above the pin, right there. Okay? This gap does not line up with this gap. Just the same as over here, this gap does not line up with this gap. None of the gaps line up. They are all above the pin, and that is very close to orientation. There is one thing that I didn't mention and didn't record either, but I want to go ahead and address it, is the ring gap. We got the orientation on them, but you have to pay attention to how much gap is there also. That relies somewhat on if your cylinder is still in spec, if it isn't worn outside spec. But it's also with these rings being aftermarket reproduction rings, you need to make sure that that gap is an appropriate gap. It cannot be completely closed when it's compressed and put in the cylinder. You do have to have flow past it. But you also don't want too big of a gap. And in these Grant directions, they do address the gap. I said the directions weren't really made for this. They are made for their rings, though. So look in your directions. Look for that gap. Again, I want to mention a shout out to Gary at VW Jawbreaker. He has a great video on this in some of the engine builds he's done. I failed to record it. He definitely has a great way of explaining it, showing the process and everything. So I'm sorry for not doing it, but I can attest to the fact that Gary will tell you what you need to know and do it in a very kind way. He's a great guy. Anyway, I'm sure you all are already watching him. If you're not, go check him out. Great stuff over there. Okay, it's time to get those pistons put in those cylinders, and we're one step closer to putting them on the motor. Another tool that's going to come in handy, there are different styles of this. This is the one I use. It's very generic, but this is a piston ring compressing tool, and this is it right here. Basically what you do, you're going to oil the inside of it. You slide it down over this piston, and then you use the provided Allen key to tighten it. And it compresses those rings into each one of those grooves so that it will fit down inside this cylinder. You're going to watch me do it here in a minute, but once it's compressed, you set it on top, line up the skirt, and I usually take the butt of a rubber hammer and you beat it down into that cylinder. If it resists, stop. No means no. Take it back out. You need those rings to not get broken going in. And if you're getting resistance, you're on the verge of breaking a ring, so don't do it. Anyway, I just wanted to explain all that before I do it here in front of you so you kind of know what's going on. I'll probably talk through it too, but I wanted to give you better idea of what was happening. So let's see if we can get this in there. There's the wrist pin. Don't want to lose it. Something else to keep in mind. This is number 1 that we're working on. This is the position number 1's going to be in on the motor. The flat side goes to the inside. So this is the top of number 1. We spent all that time with those rings getting everything oriented right. 12 o'clock is 12 o'clock, guys. Make sure that piston goes in facing the same direction. Your flywheel's back that way. That 90-degree double arrow that I did, it's going to be like this. I guess I could put another arrow here. Bam! Kind of like that. Here we go. Double arrow. That shows you which direction that piston needs to be in there. It's important, guys. Let's pay attention to it when we're putting it together. We want this motor to last. We don't want people to call us foolish for refreshing a motor, not paying someone else to build it for us. So let's do everything we can to put it together right. All right? Double arrows. Directions, never a bad thing. And guess what? You're not going to see any of this riding that we're doing once this motor's together, and you won't care about any of that riding when you're enjoying your bus driving down the highway. Okay, guys, we have our honed cylinder here. We have our re-ringed piston. This has all been building up to this point. You're going to want to make sure and oil this stuff because you're putting it together dry. That's not great. This is some 2-cycle motorcycle oil I had around. Doesn't matter what oil, you just want it lubricated. And you know what? You probably can't put too much lube on there. Just saying, could be worse to be dry than oversaturated. Like I said, I'm going to put some on the inside of this too. You can really just put it on the outside of your piston. It'd be the same thing. But our piston, I've gone through, checked all my orientation. Everything's where we want it. So what we do is we slide this. Give yourself some room there. Slide this down over it. Okay? It doesn't have to go all the way. Just let's go where the rings are. And you're going to want a little bit of that piston hanging out the bottom to line it up in the cylinder. Then you're going to start to compress. Get it lined up. Okay? Oily hands make stuff a little more difficult, but that oil makes everything a lot easier when it goes to putting it in there. So there we go, guys. I think we're compressed. Okay? Arrows. Arrows. Now, I'm running into something here. It'll go. Okay? Don't let your glove pinch off in there. You don't want that. The problem with installing these that I've run into from the bottom is these little cuts. Okay? Your ring can get caught in it. Installing from the bottom might even be smarter. There's a bevel right here that doesn't exist up there. You're also on used stuff going past, the top end of that cylinder where the piston never travels to is the thickest point of it on used stuff. So this might be dumb that I'm doing it from the top. But if it works, is it dumb? Let's see if it works. Arrows are lined up. Here we go. Okay, right there, guys, I've hit some resistance. Probably our first ring. Don't know if it's going to go or not. Sat on solid. Let's look it out, see what we're doing. Okay, right there. That part of the oiler ring is past the compressor. It's already spread out and it wasn't in there. I think that's a sign that we need to change our mode of operation here. Okay? Put a little tension on that. That'll relieve that. Errors in the moment, guys. This is all real. We got a pinched glove even. Let's flip this over. Let's do it this way. This is our 12 o'clock, okay? Let's see if we can make this happen. Doing it from the bottom side where there's a bevel on the cylinder. I don't know if we can or not. but we're sure going to find out. You want a little bit of piston exposed, because that's going to start showing you. This is 12 o'clock. That's 12 o'clock. You can move them once they're in there, but you might as well try to get it. Like I said, this groove is what I've run into a problem with before, but maybe. Nope, it's a problem this time, guys. Who would have thought? I know some people will say the problem is the compressor I'm using, but I have successfully done this before, so I don't know if that's true or not. It got everything in but this oiler ring. And I can even see where it's hanging up over here. It's one of the gaps. The gap right there. That's what's making it not want to go. See if we can get that gap to go in there. Right there. Just doesn't want to play. Take its ball and go home. It's definitely easier on this side with the bevel, I can tell you that much. Guys, I think I was right the first time coming in from the other end. These little scallops here in the side are causing an issue. So I'm going to go ahead and try to see if I can finish it out, though. Again, like I mentioned before, you don't want to damage your rings. See that? Did you see that? It just went in. Okay. That tutorial was awful. Don't listen to me, guys. That was bad. Anyway, arrow, 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 arrow. We're in there like we need to be. The other thing you need to do is expose your wrist pin hole. And that's it. Don't expose any more. Because you need to be able to slide that wrist pin through. Okay? Those scallops, that's what we're going to call them. That's what I'm calling them. Line up where the wrist pin goes. Okay. There we are. That is ready to be installed on the motor. And I think it's safe to say that I might not do the other three from the bottom. We'll do them from the top. Anything worth doing is worth doing twice, especially if the first time didn't go smoothly. We're going to do number 2 here, and we're going to try to do this install from the top again, the way I prefer to do it. Looking at number 2, I want to go ahead and address this, guys. You can see I got some broken fins from when this was taken apart. And again, what we're building is a kind of a temporary motor. Is it ideal to have broken fins? Not at all. Is it going to be okay? Probably so. You know, it's on number 2. If that makes a difference in your opinion. Makes a little difference in my opinion. Anyway, I just wanted to address it because you're going to see it. We have number 2 oiled and ready. 2 up. That's the flywheel because this is the flat side on number 2's position. Piston is marked. Circled the number 2, so I knew it. There's the arrow on the piston, but I have my own arrows more visible. So, we're going to set it on here. That's not even hanging out the bottom yet. There we go. Skirts are starting to show, so we can set it in there. Okay. Let's find a good sturdy spot on my cart here. Here we go, guys. Little resistance. Go a second, please. There it went. We're in there. Arrow, arrow, 2. Yeah. That one's ready for install, guys. Went a little smoother than last time. So, it can be done either way. There's to show you, but my initial way of doing it, going from the top, I think that's the way it needs to be done. Anyway, I will reiterate what maybe I should be saying more often. I am no engine builder. I'm a hobbyist. I don't do this for a living. But you find a way to get it done. That's the key. Do it without breaking your brand new rings, because that's going to be a setback we don't need. There we go. 1 and 2 done. That means we are ready to put 1 and 2 cylinders in and then get the head on. Half this motor, guys. We're getting there. Well, guys, we come to a particular point that I don't so much love, and that is checking or setting in play. To be honest with you, I think my reasoning behind not loving it is just the fact that if you do it wrong, you can do some major damage. Maybe it's just not trusting myself because I don't do it often enough. Anyway, I'm not going to give you a ton of details on this, except to say that if you're refreshing a motor and it has a flywheel on it, your in play should be good. You should check for play in the rear bearing, of course, but you ought to be able to put it back together. Now, the right thing to do is check your in play while it's apart. And for that, you'll need a dial indicator and some sort of setup to check the play of the flywheel and the crank moving in and out. Okay? Like I said, I am no expert. I'll leave it to someone else to explain it to you. Look in the Bentley. I'm not going to express any details because I don't want to be held responsible. So, moving on. Well, I find myself at a bit of a crossroads here. The whole time I've been doing this engine refresh, I've had the mentality that all I'm doing is taking apart a motor and putting it back together, and that nothing really changes. And it doesn't, except had a different set of pistons and cylinders put on here. And I don't know. Let me tell you where I'm at. I started putting our number 1 and 2 side together. And those pistons seem to go awful high in the cylinders. Higher than I remember them being before. In an abundance of caution, and maybe that's not even right. Maybe I should just be doing this anyway. I'm going to take my time on this 3 and 4 side and measure the deck height. And I'm going to measure the combustion chamber in the head. And I'm actually going to figure out what our compression ratio is on this motor and make sure that the clearance is there for the valves and everything like it needs to be. And that I'm not going to get this all put together and fired up and have a catastrophic failure. Because what a waste of time that would be. So we got a bunch of shims pulled out. And what I started to notice is those ones they tell you to not put in the heads. Not only were they there, but there was multiple ones stacked inside there, which makes me start to question, were they trying to increase the volume of the combustion chamber in the head? Have these heads been worked? And man, maybe they have. Like I said, in an abundance of caution, in doing my due diligence as an amateur engine builder, I'm going to roll this motor over and we're going to set 3 and 4 up. And we're going to actually check deck height. And we're going to figure everything out the way we should to make sure we're okay before we continue. So that's where I'm at, guys. I was kind of hoping to have this do a long block tonight. Not happening. In the next video, it will happen. And in the next video, we're going to be doing our first tin install. I'm going to continue to come out evenings after work and do little filmings to try to get this caught up because I'm running out of time, guys. But I want to get the heads on after we are confirming that our combustion chamber, everything's good there. And then it's going to be time to start dressing this motor back full tin and fuel injection and get it in this bus. There's still a few things we need to do the bus before then. So expect plenty of future videos in a very limited amount of time because I got to get this thing done. But all that to say, guys, thank you for being here again. These videos can kind of drag on sometimes, especially with unexpected things coming up. I'd love to shorten it, but at the same time, we're doing an engine refresh, and I don't want to skip over any of the information I'm sharing with you. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you to all our new subscribers. Got quite a few of you lately, and I really appreciate that. That's awesome. I appreciate y'all coming along for the ride and enjoying my videos, watching them, liking them, commenting. Like them and comment, guys. That's awesome. I love hearing from you. Let me know, words of encouragement, giving me ideas or anything. Comment. Let me know. Let me hear from you. I enjoy it. we'll get there. And I might have to double up and be releasing some extra videos here. Thanks for the likes and comments. Keep them coming, guys. And until next time. All right, you guys, when I was wrapping up the video yesterday, I was rambling because once again, my mind was kind of just everywhere thinking about the potential for interference inside the combustion chamber, something we definitely do not want. I snuck back out here tonight and I started working to figure this out. So I used this nice little disc syringe and some automatic transmission fluid through the valves back in this head that I'm not done with, and along with the spark plug, can't forget that. And we CC'd the combustion chamber here. I also CC'd the top of this dish piston. Okay, my syringe reads in milliliters. That piston has a 14.5 milliliter dish. The combustion chamber is 52.5, 67 milliliters. I asked the Google and it says 67 milliliters is 67 cubic centimeters. I feel like I should have known that from school, but I've been out of school for a while. Anyway, 67. You just heard the ultrasonic tick off, so probably got a little better audio in the video now. The other thing I was checking was here. This is that ultra tight deck height that I was talking about. I don't even know if I can see daylight through there because I start focusing on stuff. Anyway, my method here was the feeler gauge method. Let's find it. What I was able to get in there was a 22. 22 is too tight. But here we go. 22. Try to get you where I can see it. 22 is pretty tight in there too. It's not a... It'll go in. Yeah. Might ought to call it a 21. Anyway, either way, 21 and 22, whichever one you go with, we ought to go with the safer one. Too tight. These cylinders need to be shimmed up, but they don't need to be shimmed up a ton. They need to be shimmed up a little bit. The more I shim them up, the more I'm going to lower my compression ratio. And honestly, with the figures I have, it's already like below 8-to-1 compression. These stock motors, I think I read somewhere they were like 7.2 or 7.4 factory compression. No wonder they got a reputation for being slugs. Anyway, I'd love to have something like 8.5 to 1. I'm not going to get it on this build. We're going to get as close to 8 to 1 as we can. What that's going to involve is shimming up these cylinders ever so slightly to get a little bit more deck height. And I think I can use factory, are they seals, are they gaskets, little aluminum rings that go around the bottom of the cylinder where it meets the case. I think I can use those. I'm going to measure them. I had them in the ultrasonic just now because they were used. Don't crucify me. I'm going to clean them up as best I can. I'm going to check them. I'm going to get the whatever that thing's called, measure it, and I'm hoping I can put them on there. I'm going to put it in here dry again like I did this cylinder, and we're going to check that deck height again. If we can get what I'm after, I'm not going to give you numbers. I talked to a buddy. He builds engines. It's going to be about as tight as anyone would want to go to get me close to the compression ratio I want. Anyway, I'm rambling again. I just wanted to give you a quick update at the end of this video that we are making progress. We're not stopping. It's going to happen. Thanks again for watching, and this time for real. Until next time.